You're seeing my screen, right, Adriana?
She's saying hello and yes. If you want to unmute yourself, you can. If you're not able to, that's fine as well.
Um, I like this logo. I like where you went with this. So your color palette, you chose monochromatic, sort of a monochromatic palette, or maybe analogous. You don't have to stick with just that kind of relationship. You could add other colors if you want. And I think the way you've got it is working. I'm just sort of mentioning that. So this looks really good. You've done a great job. Everything's working together. It looks like a brand. So everything I'm going to tell you now is just sort of like trying to push it to be even better. And first off, with your logo, these tiny little loops down here are just sort of unnecessary and disappear when it gets used. You know, like they become little dots. They're almost disappearing completely. I would either make them bigger, more significant, or take them out. And some of these lines, some of the details, this is just a beautiful logo you've done, but it just sort of has some details that sort of just get lost when it gets small. So you want to think about that a little bit. Your business card has, so there's your logo lockup, blood orange. You did a vertical lockup, really nice. I would not use the same font elsewhere. Like if it's your logo font, I would not use it anywhere else so that it becomes special just to the logo. So find a different font that you want to use here. You could use your logo type horizontally here. All this looks good. I like the paper color. Use that paper color for your envelope. So when you do the envelope, just put a fill. I think the template doesn't have a fill or something because this happens a lot. So this is like the default gray that's in the Photoshop template. You just want to fill that with this paper color. But awesome job. Nice work on this.
I like the off-white. It really complements the orange and the red well.
Yeah. You have any thoughts, questions, Adriana? You're feeling good? You're gonna have a good weekend, right?
She said thank you.
Yeah. All right. All right. I'll just keep going down this list. She was the first one, I think. Yeah. All right. Ansley. I guess this is Bermuda T. If you see how you're submitting this, you need to put this into the InDesign template so we can see it properly. But what I see here is really minimal. You've got an icon of sorts, but no logo type. This type is squished inside here. You never want to do that. You're using this big, bold font, like Impact or something, which has nothing to do with your brand, which is elegant and highly English and, you know, high tea and all that stuff. There's really, you really haven't embraced the brand properly. I don't think you got to read your creative brief and understand it. Your icon is, I would say, acceptable, but not great. And that's the only thing you've got. So you've got a lot of work to do to get this up and running. So Gina, Thor's Coffee. This background color, I think it's a kind of light, almost desaturated tint of your assigned color. It kind of feels very pink. I feel like I would take some of the magenta out of that so that it looks a little more like cream and coffee.
I would recommend to just the icon mark is really dominant. I would increase the size of the logo type. So maybe put Thor's on one line and coffee on the other, or just don't be afraid for it to actually be wider than the icon mark. But I'm not being able to read it comfortably. The scale relationship is off.
Yeah, so look at the Full Sail logo for proportions. Once you get the lockup worked out, it's a lot easier to work with. The hammer background being black, I feel like it should be a color of some sort. And I know you're sort of doing a coffee cup. I think your icon imagery is okay, but yeah, your logo type's tiny in proportion. Now, as you do the identity package, you want to think about what additional elements am I going to add to brand this. So is there a pattern? Is there a texture? It's got to be more than just one background color and the logo. So think about what that would be. You could take elements of the logo here and turn them into a pattern brush or something else, or a full-on pattern area. Even those little streams of steam maybe. So think about how you would do that to add another element here. This is kind of an awkward setup and too tight to the edge. All right, Sade Café de Provence. So you've added a pattern. There's a little pattern edge here. Your logo, it's a little hard to see at this size. Logo looks okay. Yeah, I think that's working. The logo type is not the best. It's a pretty kind of hard to read. You've got this as a background. Pull the background all the way to the edge, outer edge. Same thing with the business cards. Your pattern, something looks awkward about it. I don't feel like it's a true pattern. If you may, this one looks like a real pattern. I can't figure out what's going on with that. It's like repeating awkwardly.
Yeah,
Maybe,
I would just offset it a little bit more.
yeah, it needs to be offset like brick and row. This is okay. They're
Can
gonna
you
put a,
zoom into the logo just a little bit more?
yeah, sure. Oof. It's really hard to see.
I really like the way the green is complementing the light purple.
Yeah,
I guess my concern, what I'm trying to see is the C like intertwining with the P, and
they're crashing. Yeah.
is it crashing or just, looping with each other? I don't know. That's what I wanted to see. That's all. So I just want to make sure that Provence wasn't stretched, but
It looks like it isn't. I don't know. It's just not the greatest font. I think the drawing is kind of odd. The way the R starts, like it's there. Maybe there's another glyph there for a beginning R.
just remember, you guys have access to Adobe fonts. You have a subscription of over 1,000 typefaces. So try another script font, or just try some other ones maybe and see if you get a better result. But I like the icon mark.
Yeah, that came out well. You got a good one. This little pattern is nice, but it would be great if it was in a more distinctive color, like maybe your green or something.
And then I think too, just be consistent with your purples. So I like the lighter purple. I think it's offering more color contrast, the one that you have on the letterhead. So I would recommend using that.
Yeah, because it's slightly darker.
Yeah.
Yeah, get your palette established. This should go on this document here. This is like the inside of the envelope. All right.
Shaquita joined us. I'm trying to, she's either in, I think she might be in section 4. Let me go check real quick. She's either in 2 or 4. Okay. No, she's in section 2. She said she was going to submit right before noon, so you might have to hit refresh.
Oh, well, I didn't submit it yet.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
trying to put I did the letter and the business card, so I'm trying to put that into the template right now.
Okay.
Okay.
And then it's done. Those are done, but I didn't do the rest of it yet. I'm
Okay, well,
trying.
if you make a post before our session is over, let us know and we can try to review it, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, Brianna, this is Tortuga Jelly Beans, the adult flavored drinks. I think that the icon is working out pretty well. These really harsh angles at the bottom bother me. I wish you could just like maybe blunt the tips there a little bit, maybe spread that out a little bit.
You might be able to take one of the characters from your font and, once you create outlines out of it, just look in the type glyphs and just look at them, and you might be able to find that shape in one of the characters that you could use instead for your base.
Yeah, like the base of a cap I or cap T in that font might work. Well, I guess that's a cap T. No, so maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, once you look in your font, you'll know better.
So for the business card, this is looking good. Just say that. You're using a lot of color because it's a color jelly bean, so I get that. This font is not a great font for a business card for a title. I would keep it a little simpler, and I wouldn't use black here. Black, with your color palette, the overall look, the black is just going to stand out in a bad way. It looks like you did some sort of technique of distorting this or distressing it or something. But whatever you do, I mean, I think that's okay, but I would do it consistently. And maybe it appears there, but it's kind of hard to see. The letter T just feels like it's falling away from the rest of the word. I would tighten it up closer. And jelly beans could be tucked up a little tighter underneath Tortuga. So these are just sort of finer points. The gradient here is very playful and fun, but it may be a little much for a logo. I don't know. What do you think, Sabrina?
It would definitely be expensive for
Yeah.
printing. Like you wouldn't be able to, you know what I mean? Like if you had, especially if you had to spec every single Pantone in there.
Yeah, right. I think what's not matching too, this orange color. So you've got like a turquoise, yellow, pink, violet, orange. I think somehow you have to rein it in a little bit. I don't know. Maybe the orange is the outlier.
I think if they would have used the purple, it would have tied it in better.
Yeah, use the purple there. Maybe that'll just fix the whole thing. It might just be personal taste, but for me, I would probably simplify this to like 2 colors instead of 4. And this pattern's nice. Now, everywhere the white paper, like maybe that could be a tint or a color of some type in the background. These boxes with this color kind of don't make sense to me. I guess your logo, so your logo should be able to have a background at times. So if you can't put any sort of background color there, then that's a bit of a problem. But like I would want this turquoise to fill the page, and maybe this is white inside this part of the icon, and that would work. Well, I guess the stick would get lost. Just a little finessing. So I think that consider like a background color that would work with your logo.
And then, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. And some
ahead.
of your margin space for your horizontal business card, some close to the edge.
Yeah, see, there's the margin. You'd want to be in there. This pattern of jelly beans is well done and looks nice. These stripes, I feel like it's too much, like another element. there's just a lot going on. I would sort of experiment with simplifying a little bit more. And this looks okay, but I feel like the paper should be a color. See, when you're looking at it all together, it doesn't quite feel like it's tied together. You've got the stripes, which are really distinctive, this pattern, the turquoise box. So you've got some good ideas. You just sort of have to pull them together a little bit. Letterhead looks good. I don't know. You could, if you tighten this pattern up, made it smaller, the whole thing overall smaller, it might work on the letterhead as an area.
What if the pattern was tightened up and smaller and that became the fill in the glass instead
Yeah,
of
that
that
could
gradient?
work. Yeah, if it's real small.
Like if it was just like lots of little jelly beans with as a drink. I don't know. Just an
So,
idea.
Brenna, I hope we're helping you. You've got some really good elements going. It's sort of like you've got all the ingredients, you just have to make the sauce, like sort of pull it together a little more. I think you'll be in good shape. All right, Catherine, stone soup. You've made some progress here. So in terms of the identity package, you've got your logo, you've got the red color that you were assigned as a border and as blocks of area. This is not really good, sufficient branding. I would think about patterns, textures, you know, maybe there's a stone texture that's the paper color. I wouldn't put a border on letterhead like this right to the edge. That's not a great look. This background seems to be like a stone color. The line work on the logo, I think it could get punched up a bit. It's like a little thicker and sort of more of a cartoon style. It feels a little off scale right at the moment. And then this type doesn't read over the dark, you know, dark on dark doesn't read. So think about what other elements you could add to this. Got any thoughts, Sabrina?
I was just going to concur with that all. Yeah. I like the on the vertical card, you know, the way that the paper contrasts with the two colors in the background. That seems to work a little bit better. I think stone might be just a little too close, stone soup, to the icon mark, maybe just a little more breathing space between the two elements. But, you know, possibly, yeah, you could just, you know, just keep, you know, finessing it. But yeah.
All right, Jake, Stonehaven. All right, so this, your icon is this kind of dapper character who feels like he's from an Edward Gorey story, and which is wonderful. You've got, all right, so when I look at this overall, I feel like this is like maybe the stone pattern. This blue, I'm afraid, is your assigned color. I apologize for that because, well, it's just so bright. And you're trying to tone it down a bit, but the color, you're using just two colors, or three, I guess, stone gray, orange, and blue. The orange is a complement, but it's very dark orange. I'm not sure this sort of fits the brand well. Maybe there's a gold you could use instead. And then additional colors to sort of tone down the blue, maybe a darker version of the blue. This filigree sort of Victorian thing feels like you clipped it poorly or something. It's got a lot of white edges. It's not really working well. Unless you created this yourself, it's going to be hard to work with. I can tell that. So, you know, overall, the color feels a little like it's screaming at me. You could get a darker orange to be more like brown. I just feel with this bright blue, you've got to really sort of tone it down around it. And stone is okay. the word Stonehaven, that font is kind of an unfortunate choice. It looks very squished. In fact, it looks like it's distorted. I would do something a little more legible than that. See what you can find. It does look squished. Like here, it looks more vertical. So think about that. More margin, give it like an inch margin on letterhead. Smaller type here. I hope that's helpful. I think you've got a good logo, so you developed some good logos there.
Peter, I have an orange I want to show.
Okay.
I'm just going to throw it in the chat field. Maybe you can pull it up. I don't know. Did it?
It came through. I'm just opening it. It's
Okay.
opening Photoshop. Yeah.
Oh, the orange is on the right side, but like that orange to me would work a little bit better. I don't
Yeah, it's a
know.
little paler. Yeah, you got to sort of find that balance. I know you want his beard. If if you darkened it up brown and you had the pale orange and a dark orange, maybe that would work better. Right now, these are sort of mid-value, both of them, and complements, and so they're not working well together. I hope that's helpful, Jake. All right, Chase, Osiris Coffee, business card, letter, envelope, letterhead. All right, and it's not really completed right. So, Chase, your logo icon is complex. It has a lot of fine lines. You don't really have a lockup, which is the name of the company, Osiris Coffee, with the icon. You need to lock that up so that you have a logo, and probably change the line thickness here so that it's works better in a small size. So you've got like a low opacity version of your icon back here, which is kind of not really an idea. That's just like, I don't know what to do.
That's what we did back in the 90s.
Yeah. Putting a chunk of color here doesn't really relate to anything, not really an idea. So this color combination is good because if this was a little darker, this would appear more like gold, and that could be a good look for you. I would look at your other icons for elements that you could maybe turn into a pattern or pattern brush, but lock up your logo, make it work, and then come up with these other elements that you want to add to your identity package. And here, this isn't the completed what you were working on. So keep working. I think you got more work to do. Logan, Green Mountain Maple Candy. This is the mint maple candy. So you've got a pale pink, which is kind of like peppermint, or green like peppermint. I don't know if you have amazing eyesight, but can you read that logo type?
I can't read it.
No, it's invisible. So your logo type needs to be much bigger in proportion to the icon, and don't circle the icon, put it next to it, follow the instructions in the week 2 assignment about how to set this up. And when it comes to your identity package, you want to have secondary elements besides just color. Color is one aspect, but you want to have patterns, dingbats, texture, other things that sort of convey the brand. I think once you get your logo worked out, you can start to think about that. Deja, all right, Salty Dog, you listened to our feedback and you added this texture. I think that's working. These wave elements still feel kind of awkward and big. I think she was trying to use.
Yeah, maybe she didn't quite understand what I was talking about.
Yeah. Uh,
Because I literally meant like take the bottom of the ying and rotate it so it looks like cresting ocean waves.
so rotate it to the right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. See if you can do that. You're on solid ground. You've made good progress. This texture should probably fill the rest of the envelope. Um, I don't know. I think this little strip of green there, I guess it works. I don't know. Yeah, just gotta work. If you work out that wave element, you might have it wrapped up. All right, let's go to section 2. Marquise, Sweet Tooth Gummies.
We did this one yesterday.
Right, newest first. I swear I did that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
There we go. All right,
I'm
Joanna.
having a hard time seeing this one. Is this the fruit one, the orchard? No, cactus cookies. Oh, oh there we go. Oh, okay. She did 3 logos, and this was the one to me that least conveyed the brand, although it was rendered well. It doesn't tell me about the spiciness or the fact that it's actually, but I'm not saying that it can't work. So I think that the decorative typeface is too decorative. And the fact that cookies is so much longer with the swoosh, kind of disproportionates like the visual flow a little bit. So I would prefer that maybe you found, something a little more Southwest looking, maybe more geometric looking in terms of a typeface, and see if that works. In terms of the business card, I actually do like this repetition of the turquoise circle. I think I like it a little bit better on the horizontal version because the other one is so close to the edge that it causes a little bit of visual tension. I'm a very deliberate, like if it's going to go over the edge, I want to make sure it's very clear that it goes over the edge. But when it just comes so close, that to me is somewhat problematic. In terms of underlining the text, that's not really one of the first choices that I would do to show visual hierarchy. I think scale is enough of a way to show visual hierarchy, which you've already done. So I would remove the underline. And the color scheme is harmonious. I think you have a good scheme going on. So yeah, I would go back to selecting a different typeface. And maybe you'd add some visual hierarchy with that, like cactus on one line, cookies on the next, maybe 2 contrasting fonts. You have a pattern on the pot itself. Maybe then rather than the circles, which I do like, but maybe rather than the geometric circles, you could use that particular triangle pattern, and that might tie in the composition and provide more continuity.
And use the align tool to distribute things evenly, or you can make a pattern brush. The color palette's awesome.
Yes.
Good job on that. It's going to work really well once you pull that together. All right, Jade. She is also doing cactus cookies. Huh.
There's no color. It's no fun with no color. This is color theory.
Yeah. So if we go back to your creative brief. Where's your creative brief? You need to get the creative brief for cactus cookies and place it in here and read it and understand about cactus cookies, because your assigned Pantone color is not appearing. I don't, I don't think that's a real
This colors remind me of like, Chicago
gray.
architecture.
Yeah. Right. Uh, you're kind of off base on this. So you need to find your creative brief from the Google Doc from week 2. Read the week 2 assignment carefully and make sure you do your logo according to the week 2. Yeah, because this work is not following the assignment well. Some of the drawings are really good, and then the Illustrator, it's like very simplistic, basic.
So when I select a decorative typeface like that, I would have rendered the icon mark in the same style. Because, you know what I mean? Otherwise, the two elements don't always complement each other as much.
Yeah, like a thick fill, like an offset
Mhm.
fill.
Yes.
Yeah, that would work. Would work better.
All right, let's go to the next one.
All right. All right, Heaven Saffron Cookies.
So she is just stuck on this logo. And for whatever reason, I keep telling her the script font does not work with overlapping it. But it's one of those things when, people just fall in love with something and they just refuse to listen to constructive feedback. So I don't really have much else to say because I've addressed this with this particular student.
Yeah.
In her.
So have I.
So,
yeah. All right. David, you've given us that one JPEG, Shaman Tea, with a sort of face that looks like a tea leaf as well. So he just gave a JPEG of this one page. So
okay. So I think we're having two logos in it essentially because you have the interlocking ST as well as the other one. I think. All right, so let's go back to just your logo on the vertical business card. I'm trying to understand all of the circles around the face and if they're needed. And maybe they could just be scaled down because they're kind of competing for attention in terms of the relationship that's taking place. They're feeling kind of dominant. Then you have this very organic leaf-like shape. And then like even the strokes, are tapered and so forth. And then you have like these perfect circles. The relationship isn't working quite as well. So my first recommendation is maybe just eliminate the circles. And, I think that leaf mark would become much more distinctive. And I'm not feeling that particular typeface. I don't want the students to get the impression that I'm against decorative typefaces. I'm not. I just think that they have so much personality that you have to use them in the right scenario, and you always have to consider the factor of legibility. And right now, I think the legibility is a little problematic. So I would select a different typeface, and I'm not feeling all the extra circles. Now we come to the back, and now we have this torn look with this drop shadow. So when I do my drop shadows, I like to just follow the physics of nature a little bit more. So I'll often take it from the 75% black to maybe a darker tint shade of whatever base color I have. And then I usually will lower the opacity to somewhere between 10 to 35%. And I just find it just creates a much more natural looking drop shadow. So this just looks like a little artificial because it's so harsh. And so, and you went away from using the purple, which maybe would work better for your typography, to just the black. So I think the forest green would even be a really great choice for your typography.
Yeah, like this screen here.
Yeah. So I would get rid of the interlocking initials. That to me would be great for like a wedding invitation, you know, somebody's name with a T and somebody's name with an S. But for this particular brand, I'm not feeling it. Find a different typeface that matches the leaf figure and eliminate the circles. And I'm trying to understand like the purpose behind the torn look. And to me, like the brand doesn't really match the idea of like rough edges. So
Yeah, I like this icon. Without the circles, it'll work a lot better. And it's a southwestern sort of feeling. So maybe there's a sand color in the background, and maybe this has more of a desert feeling, like desert dunes or something.
mhm.
So, all right.
You have good visual hierarchy going on though.
Yeah, there's some, I do think you created an interesting icon for this. All right, let's do section 3. All right, Celeste. So you're still working on this, I understand. Thor's Coffee. So right away, your logo, you've got the type and a very tight arc around the icon. This is going to make it really hard to work with. Put the type flat underneath, like we say in week 2. Watch, look at the diagram. Don't put a stroke on this calligraphy type. You don't really need it. Don't do a gradient in the type. I would just keep it simple. You want to keep it simple and visible. So you're still working on it. Now your color palette, you've got 2 tones of red. Think about the other colors you want to work with this. What other colors are going to play nicely with these colors? So as you expand your color palette, it'll really help flesh out your identity package. Jennifer, Black Sea Chocolate. You don't have to use the tetrad if you don't want. You can start with that and add to it. Your logo lockup hasn't quite been worked out, I don't feel. The hierarchy in the type is okay. It looks a little stretched. The words Black Sea. The icon is complex and it's hard to see at this size. I don't know if there's a way to simplify it a bit. And the containing shape maybe could be more customized to it. So right away you have a problem trying to use it vertically and you squish the artwork together, it looks like. See, even this, being close in like this is better than this whole scene. So maybe there's a way to contain this into a shape and have that be your logo.
I was thinking the same thing that, you know, I don't think she needs the entire tail, but you know, just maybe one part that crests into the wave on the right side, and that visually is interesting.
You're using the wave as a pattern. That's a great idea. I think it has to be tighter and smaller to work properly. Don't put underlines on your type. There needs to be some hierarchy here.
No, I think that's the
Oh
spell
yeah,
check.
spell check because you're giving me screenshots. Um, see, this could work nicely if you make it into a pattern brush and make it much smaller. Then it could be a border on your letterhead across the bottom. And then a tighter icon that's more in a square or circle format with the type, and the type should be tightened up. You've got like all the elements to make it great, so you're close. Just some cleanup, sort of. I don't know that this works, and if you were going to do this, it'd have to be offset from the stroke significantly because it's right on the edge. And the way they print envelopes, you'd have to print this and then have it match the other side of the paper.
Yeah. Once you actually stuff the envelope, it might get frustrating.
Yeah. All right. She worked hard on the octopus. the Kraken. All right, Aaron, Oaxaca chocolate. So you've got the Day of the Dead kind of face. That type is totally illegible. I can't read that at all. If you wanted to use that super condensed font, then you'd have to just do the word Oaxaca way bigger in proportion to the icon. Chocolate, I would do in a different font underneath. But the way it is configured right now, it's really hard to read. Your logo has a lot of colors. That is kind of overly complex, maybe. It could be simplified in some way. And then as a secondary element, you're using black and just black chunks. Maybe consider a chocolate color that's very dark chocolate. Like, what does dark chocolate look like? Because it's close to black, but it will just give it a little more richness. And then, you know, these floral headdresses or a pattern you can make out of that, or some, you know, some sort of border or something using that to dress it up more, because right now it's too simplistic. The title, the name and title should be larger compared to everything else. So consider that. All right, so there's thinking about color palette. See, all this tiny detail on the face just gets lost when it gets small. If you just like sort of simplify the design a little bit. You got any thoughts, Sabrina?
No, that's it, you know?
Yeah.
So she's created it more like an illustration for like, you know,
Yeah.
a festival than actually a logo mark.
Nikki, monkey tree. All right. So you've got the monkey sitting on the tree. The tree is made up of the logo type. This is not a good plan. I think that the monkey has some fun personality. The details are a little too dainty to be a logo. When it gets down small, it's kind of falling apart. Pull the type out. You could make a tree shape, I suppose, but you want the type to be very legible and large. These concentric rings feel like they're coming out of nowhere. It's just sort of geometric stuff, whereas your logo feels more kind of cartoony, fun, lots of curves. So it's not really matching up yet. So just throwing these rings in the bottom, it's not going to cut it. Yeah, see, like your monkey, you need to chunk your monkey. Get it a little thicker lines and stuff. Maybe the licorice is a lot larger in his hand, exaggerated a bit. It is a cartoon, so you can have some fun with that. But I would just make it a regular tree shape of some sort to have him on. And then you need your logo type outside the icon, as we described in week 2. You got any thoughts, Sabrina?
No, I mean, there's just so much fun the student can have with this idea. But just remember to keep your logo proportionate.
Yeah.
I always say you want to stay away from Jack and the Beanstalk looking logos. They just don't translate well into different collateral. You end up having to shrink the logo down too small, typically for the text to be comfortably read when it's too long.
You almost want to, like when you're working on a logo in Illustrator, I would put a square guide behind everything and just try to work within a square or a circle. And that way you sort of discipline yourself to keep it in that proportion, and you'll be much happier with the logo. It works better. And I mean just the icon part. The type obviously can be outside the square. All right, Klaus, saffron cookies. This looks very pretty. The yellow is your assigned color. The fact that you put the type inside the icon like this, it is legible, but it's a little problematic because the type is so small compared to the icon. But I don't know. What do you think of this, Sabrina?
It's too small for me.
Yeah, type's too small. Shrink that all down, pull your type out from there. Saffron can be quite large. Cookies is a secondary element. So reconsider that lockup. Now, in terms of the collateral, this is very beautiful. It's got like very subtle patterns, textures. It's got a lot of orchid reference, which is part of the brand. I feel like you're using the yellow and purple, which are complements, in a good way. So I think you're on solid ground in terms of that goes. You agree, Sabrina?
Yeah, for the business card, just think of your Gestalt grouping. So you have the horizontal one, you have like the type, the name of the person, and then CEO. But I would, put CEO, the next line, CEO, a little bit closer to the title, and then a little bit more space before like the contact info. So
And tighten up these, yeah.
Yeah, just chunk them up a little
I
bit.
was just saying, it looks like the eye chart, like everything spaced and centered. So look at some business cards, like go on Pinterest or go on Behance and see how people set up type for their business cards. This element in the background, it's very pretty, but it's just sort of interferes with the type. So I personally wouldn't do that. I think the border works.
I think the flow on the right is enough of a decorative element, and I like the way
Yeah.
it does feel like it's flying and really, falling down.
So in case I didn't say it, Klaus, good work. All right. Deshay, Barbarella's, just at the 50,000 foot view, the elements within this logo, everything is colored in a very dark value. So there isn't sufficient contrast. It really should have more contrast in light and dark so that it pops out. And it's pretty hard to see. I know it seems like you're definitely in progress with this, but I think that you need more value contrast, and maybe this gold color is a lot lighter, and that might help it.
I was just going to say the relationship of the visual hierarchy and the typography to the icon, I think that's done well. Maybe the subline could be just a tad bit bigger, but yeah.
Trying to zoom in here. You're doubling up the type and using a sort of blue versus purple red, I think, but it looks like one of those 3D images, but I'm not wearing the glasses, so it just looks crazy. I would maybe simplify that too. So you've got a great structure here. I think you've got to play with the color palette to give yourself enough variety in terms of value as well as hue, because that will help you. And then you have to come up with the rest of the elements. So, all right. Section 3, hold on, let's get out of 300%. There we go. All right, to the top, Antoinique, Iona's Treats.
I think that I would go back and render the icon mark again, and just think about it. It doesn't have a professional look to it. So
I think doing initials, especially when the initials are IT, is not a good strategy for this. Watch the video on brainstorming to get ideas. Think about the fact that Iona is a female name, so maybe there's a character, could be an animal character, a human character, but something more interesting than just the initials, which would be like the first thing that popped in your head.
I do like the color palette, so I think that you could keep that, but just go back and refine that. The icon mark, something that's a little bit more apropos.
Yeah. All right, next up, Jules.
So your icon, as we mentioned before, the logos came out great, good visual hierarchy. I mean, visually really interesting. You could, even if it comes out too tall, the logo, you could always, rotate it if needed. And the logo would work just as well horizontally as it is working vertically with the flames. Is that all the students done so far?
Yes.
Okay, so you're on the right track. Just keep moving forward.
Juan. That's all he's got.
So I think that the bamboo leaf, the orange leaves, I would keep them all on the left side of the logo because in the sketches initially he had that particular leaf C making the C of the cookies,
Yeah.
but it didn't, the marriage didn't work so well. But still, like now the spacing is a little off. So maybe if all that was on the left side, then, you know, you could have a little bit better alignment of Shanghai cookies on the right. So I would just experiment with that relationship. So the assigned color is that orange, Peter?
Yes.
Okay. So I think once you move that leaf to the left side, you may be able to put cookies in orange as well. I don't know. You can play with the colors and see if it balances.
Mm-hmm. Cassandra, Osiris Coffee.
So okay, Peter, how do you feel about this not being that lockup format?
I think it could be problematic. The icon is incredibly complex, and there's a lot of very thin line work that's not going to work when it shrinks down.
When I see that particular typeface, I'm thinking more of like an old Western movie.
Yeah,
like
Victorian
a
almost.
saloon.
Yeah.
So I think you should experiment with some other fonts and see, you know, if that'll work. And I think just as easily, if you wanted to rotate the beetle horizontally and then just, you know, rotate the Eye of Horus as well to be upright, it might work better in that orientation. And then the text could be placed underneath. But I think like I'm wondering if you should eliminate a couple of details.
The scarab as a coffee bean is probably enough of a concept. The Eye of Horus, the star, those elements probably don't need to be there. You could simplify it a lot.
Does that, you kind of have a star behind the circle of the eye as well?
Yeah.
So, and that circle, but that one's very pure geometric, whereas yours is more free flowing organic. So I think those elements aren't like, you know, complementing each other the way they should.
There's a lot going on.
And the other thing is, I think that this logo really calls itself to be symmetrical.
Yeah.
And when I look at the like horns of the bee, that part doesn't feel symmetrical. So I would go back and refine that part above, yeah, right above, yeah, and the body of the beetle.
Oh,
and, yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
So yeah, work on half and then flip it so that it's exactly the same.
So,
all right.
so keep going.
Olivia, this is Babylon Soap.
All right, I would move those bubble clouds up and cover that butt crack. And yeah, I think that's where I'm leaning right now is
yeah, and aside from modesty, there's another reason, which is you want your icon to be squarer, less vertical. So that would help that as well.
The hair overlap the soap if you wanted, you know, the soapy clouds. So yeah. This particular script is more legible than other ones we've seen. And the thickness, you know, the way that it, the font works is mimicked in the style of your wings. So the marriage relationship hair is working a lot better. I'm not, I might have chosen a different typeface, but what I'm saying is that you can keep it, if you're set on it.
Nicely done illustration. Good line, great use of line work.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say that in your lockup, the picture here could be about half the size it is now in proportion to the type. Because I think when you start to use this on a business card and stuff, you're going to find it's not proportionate. So, all right. Elspeth. She's got a color palette.
Okay. So keep working with it. That's the first step.
These aren't matching here. They're not quite matching up.
Maybe she still wants to update the Pantones.
I don't know. Do you recognize this Pantone code?
I can't really see it, Peter.
PMS 20-0066
I think
TPM.
that must be fabric, right? So she's selecting the wrong set.
Yeah, watch the video on which set of Pantone to use.
So,
all right, this is Angela doing Black Sea Chocolate. She's explored color significantly and tried out different palettes in there. So this is a good exploratory of color. Next, you got to get onto all your element to start designing stuff.
Yeah, I'm not really leaning toward any one in particular. The complementary one seems the most balanced right now, but you may, like we said, this is just a starting place. You may need to then tweak some colors in order to get appropriate color contrast and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Janelle, Monkey Tree.
After we're done with this section, we need to go back to section 2. Shakita has submitted.
Okay, I think this might be the last one. Yeah, this is the last one here.
Okay.
So you have some real illustrators in this section.
So again, I think that the chevron pattern in the background is detracting from the licorice hanging from the tree, and I would get rid of it. So
yeah, everything has a wonderful organic feeling, and this is so geometric. It has a sort of Dr. Seuss look. You look at the line work in here. I mean, this is great stuff, but probably you have to think on a scaling, scalable. So when this gets small, some of these details will get lost. So you can,
yeah, the little lights with light and shadow on the tree, all of that might get lost because those are really fine lines.
And yeah, and if this icon was half the size it is with the type remaining this size, that would be a better lockup. So yeah, see, she's already ditched the containing shape.
The orange is a little bold, I think, for this background color. So maybe you could tone the orange down a little bit. Because in particular, because now it's the complement of the teal, the turquoise, for CEO, that's vibrating and kind of draining the eye a little bit. So yeah, I would just play with the background color.
All right, let's see, Shaquita. There you go. She's got the cockatoo.
So I'm quite happy with this logo lockup. I think it's, create a solution with the jelly bean for the body, underbody part of the bird. I think that the color scheme, I would continue to play with it and tweak it. The color that you have complementing the purple, I suppose you're trying to go more for a gold color, but it's not coming out as harmonious or appeasing. You just always kind of want to stay away from shades that remind you of baby diapers. So I'm serious. So I think, yeah, continue to find out other colors that would work with that purple. And I would lighten the background of the letterhead just a little bit more to just push that color contrast a little bit more. So and then just, your typographic scale is a little off here. So that like in the return address, those feel like separate elements instead of one cohesive whole. So just think about how that could be worked out. But yeah, I like the bird on the back of the envelope. That's a nice touch. And as far as the jelly beans, I would play a little bit more with the spacing and rotating them, and a little bit, the fun pattern that you have, you know what I mean? You kind of start with like 3 upright and then it becomes a little bit more playful. So just keep working on that relationship. It doesn't feel quite as balanced yet. So, Peter, you want to add anything?
No, I agree with all that. Letterhead, typically the body of the letter would be just laser printed in black.
Right.
It wouldn't be a color, but the fact that you love color so much is a good thing.
Do you have any questions for us? So I would just tweak that goldish brown color.
Okay, that sounds great because I didn't really know what to do. I was wanting to go with a gold color because it says
the complement of purple, yeah, but you got to get a little bit more on the yellow side.
Yeah, I would pump up the yellow, take down the magenta maybe a little bit.
Because I wanted to make it look sophisticated, just because their age range is supposed to be 35 to 75. So I didn't want to make it look too colorful, because then it would be like kitty.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Good job.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
We finished on time.
Great. Good work, everybody. See you Monday.